So the NHL wants to decentralize the draft, eh? I mean, I don't mind, as it means we won't have to hear 32 GMs and their legions talk for 30 minutes before they call up another guy to stand at the mic and make the pick. Still, the sight of all the teams' war rooms on the arena floor was something pretty unique, and losing that is going to be a shame. So while we reminisce on the NHL changing the draft, let's look back at one of the more interesting ones in recent memory. Like last year, we're going to go back 7 years to 2017, and see just how well, or in some cases poorly, these picks turned out.
With our first selection in the 2017 entry draft, the New Jersey Devils are proud to welcome, from the Halifax Mooseheads, Nico Hischier.
Is Hischier good? Yes. Very good, in fact. Is he first overall good? I wouldn't go that far, but that shouldn't be taken as a knock against his ability. He's been excellent for New Jersey ever since he got there. He's been very consistent during his time in the league and has steadily gotten better with each year. He hit the 80-point mark for the first time in 2023 and has scored at a 30-goal pace over the last 2 years. He's ascended to captaincy and has acted as the perfect leader to this up-and-coming Devils team. Even with the down year last season, they're sure to turn it around quickly and are likely to be a threat for many years to come. And you know Nico's going to be there to lead them through it all.
Philadelphia selects from the Western Hockey League's Brandon Wheat Kings, Nolan Patrick.
I've never felt worse for a player in my life. Patrick was a guy that many people heralded as a potential superstar, and why wouldn't they? Throughout his junior career, he was dominant, hitting a high of 102 points in 2016 and adding another 30 points in the playoffs as Brandon won the WHL championship. It was the next season where things started to go wrong. As soon as the season wrapped, he went under the knife for sports hernia surgery. Unfortunately, due to complications from that surgery, he was only able to manage 33 games the next season. Despite that, he was still considered to be the consensus #1 overall pick, right up until Hischier's name was called instead. And it never got better for him. Constant injuries, migraine issues, and concussion problems derailed his career before it could even start. He was traded to Vegas for a change of scenery, but after yet another concussion, he went on to LTIR and still hasn't found a way back onto the ice. There were those rumors that he had announced his retirement, which he himself said were untrue, but even if he decided to retire, I don't think anyone would blame him for it. He gave his everything to a game he loved, and unfortunately, it never loved him back. His star shined bright and burned out just as fast. Here's hoping he gets his health in order, and who knows, while it seems like a long shot, I'm sure many a hockey fan would celebrate a comeback.
The Dallas Stars, with the third pick, are pleased to select from HIFK of the Finnish Liga, Miro Heiskanen.
The first of Dallas's major picks, and yes, I said first, Heiskanen has turned into one of the most dominant defensemen in the entire league. Excellent two-way play, capable of driving the offense or shutting them down, Heiskanen really is the complete package. After his breakout performance in 2020 put him on the map, he managed to keep that momentum and has steadily built upon his dominance ever since. While the major accolades unfortunately haven't found him yet, if he continues performing like he has, then I'm sure it'll only be a matter of time. Just look at the next guy I'd picked after him. Actually, maybe not.
Colorado Avalanche are proud to select from Brooks, the Alberta Junior Hockey League, Cale Makar.
If you can find a National Hockey League scout who says this kid can play defensive hockey in the NHL, you're a good man or you found a liar. He did not play at the World Junior Championship. This kid lit it up at a lower level of hockey. That's not to diminish what he did, but that is to suggest that he's got to prove that he can do it at a higher level.
You know, Bob, I think he did that. Let's see, Hobie Baker winner, Calder winner, Norris winner, and a little thing called the Conn Smythe Trophy. Yep, safe to say Makar's done it all. The reason why many people might have doubted him heading into the draft was due to the fact that he'd been playing Junior A hockey, a step below the major development leagues in the CHL or NCAA. Many scouts and GMs feared that his dominant playstyle might not translate all too well at the NHL level. Thankfully, he's proven all those doubters wrong. With some of the best skating and puck skills in the game, Makar not only transitioned seamlessly to the NHL, but has done so on both sides of the puck as well. As a star piece in the back end to a dominant Colorado team, Makar has developed into the perfect piece to lead the Avs blue line. Now we need to figure out what kind of black magic Zach could pull to get him to sign that contract.
And with our first selection, we select from Timrå, Elias Peterson.
Name a more iconic duo than the Canucks and their superstar Swedes. Despite some pre-draft skeptics and early injury trouble, Pettersson managed to silence the doubters and turn into an elite centerman capable of driving offenses all on his own, provided he has halfway decent line mates at least. The only other big scare from his career came from his contract situation. Thankfully, after back-to-back point-per-game campaigns, he earned himself the bag and locked himself into Vancouver's offense for the long term. Despite a disappointing playoffs in 2024, many in the league have awakened to Petey's true talent, and something tells me he's going to continue that way for a long, long time.
Vegas Golden Knights are pleased to select from the Portland Winterhawks of the Western Hockey League, Cody Glass.
The first of Vegas' 3 first-rounders, Glass was seen as a bright young prospect that the young team could build around for the future. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. Due to Vegas' constant ring chasing, he found himself left behind as he stalled out in the team's system. Thankfully, he seemed to have a bit of a revival after a trade in Nashville. While not the star he was projected to be, at the very least he's found himself a nice little niche in the league. And sometimes, that's all you can really ask for.
New York Rangers select from HV71, Lias Andersson.
When the most notable moment from your career is the time you threw a silver medal into the crowd, I think it's safe to say your career projections haven't quite gone to plan. He didn't develop in New York and was then sent off to LA, where he continued his disappointing form, so much so that they didn't even extend him a qualifying offer. He was then scooped up by Montreal, where he spent all of last year in the minors. Next.
The Buffalo Sabres are pleased to select from Eden Prairie, Casey Middlestad.
When Middlestad was drafted, he was seen as a prospect with all the potential in the world, and his performance at the 2018 World Juniors had Sabres fans salivating at the idea of him and Eichel as a 1-2 punch up the middle. Since then, he's been alright. He's still a decent middle six center and actually showed some of his potential in the playoffs after being traded to Colorado. Regardless, I'm sure there's still some fans out there wondering what could have been.
Family Ken Holland, the Detroit Red Wings, are proud to select from the Tri-City Americans of the Western Hockey League, Michael Rasmussen.
Rasmussen was seen as a guy who might be able to add a decent bit of scoring at center. Unfortunately, things haven't really turned out that way. Don't get me wrong, he's still a serviceable bottom six center, but not the guy who can really drive the offense. I mean, just look at how Detroit's offense disappeared after Larkin got hurt last year. He did earn himself a nice little contract extension though, so that's better than nothing.
The Florida Panthers are proud to select from the Mississauga Steelheads, Owen Tippett.
Despite an excellent career in junior, it still took Tippett almost 4 years to become an NHL regular, and when he finally did, he struggled to find a role in Florida's system. So they shipped him off to Philadelphia as part of the Claude Giroux trade. Since then, he's exploded. With back-to-back 25-goal seasons, Tippett has emerged as one of the Flyers' most potent offensive pieces. With how both he and the team have been trending upwards over the last few years, something tells me he's going to continue that way for the years to come.
With the 11th section in the 2017 entry draft, the Los Angeles Kings select from the OHL, Windsor Spitfires, Gabriel Velarde.
Hey, we got this goal-scoring center who just had his first 20-goal season and seems like a great piece to help bolster our young core. What should we do with him? Dude, I got it. Trade him, a second, and 2 roster players for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Okay. Alright, PLD bashing aside, Velarde has turned into a great player. Took him a while to get going, but he's developed into a strong top 6 center who consistently put up 20 goals and with the pace he scored at could even flirt with 40 in the near future. Now let's hope his injury troubles can be left behind.
Carolina Hurricanes are proud to select from the Czech Republic, Martin Necas.
Necas is good. Unfortunately, he may also be seen as a cautionary tale of how you can in fact have too much of a good thing. He's a strong top 6 forward capable of playing at both center and on the wing and has seen steady progression for each year of his career. Too bad he's likely to find himself out of Carolina soon. Trade rumors have been circulating basically since the Hurricanes got eliminated, and with the amount of free agents they have to sign, something tells me they won't have the cap space to bring him back. All Carolina can do now is hope he doesn't get offer sheeted.
Vegas Golden Knights are pleased to select from Owen Sound, Nick Suzuki.
Do you think Vegas regrets trading Suzuki? Okay, they won a cup, so maybe not, but they might have won it earlier if they chose to keep him. The centerpiece to Montreal's top line, he had his big breakout in 2021 as he spearheaded the young Habs offense all the way to the Cup Finals. Since then, he's seen steady improvement on both sides of the puck and even earned himself the captaincy as Weber was forced onto LTIR. He earned himself a nice bag for his services too. Crazy how that works out. Montreal traded their captain and got their captain back. I'd say it's a win-win.
Tampa's very pleased to select from Kelowna of the Western Hockey League, Cal Foote.
He was okay when he played, and now he doesn't. yeah, we'll leave it at that.
John Tavares, so let's go here.
To select from Sweden, Eric Brandstrom.
The last of Vegas' inaugural first-round picks, and like Suzuki, he was also traded for a major superstar. I am still salty about this. As for the kind of player he's turned into, he's been alright. Despite being undersized, he's still a nice little offensive defenseman who's shown flashes of his talent before and could probably find a decent role in another team's top 4. I say another team because, I mean, look at who's ahead of him on the depth chart in Ottawa. I'm sure he could still be valuable on a team that could actually find a role for him, but for now, it still remains to be seen.
Calgary Flames are proud to select from Tri-City of the Western Hockey League, Juuso Valimaki.
Valimaki is a fine player. Unfortunately, Calgary didn't see him that way. After being put on waivers, he was claimed by Arizona, where he found a solid role in their top 4. And now he even got himself a nice new contract extension for his troubles. And that's not too bad for a waiver claim.
Toronto proud to announce from Sweden, Timothy Liljegren.
Liljegren seemed like the kind of guy who could develop into a true defensive stalwart when he was drafted. Unfortunately, he hasn't lived up to that. Like Branston before him, he's shown flashes of his potential, but unfortunately also has the uncanny ability to play his way out of the lineup faster than his team can play their way out of the playoffs. It's not even like with Branston where you can easily see the logjam ahead of him. Liljegren just hasn't played well enough to earn himself the spot. No wonder all the rumors of him being shipped off have been swirling around. And never mind, Toronto gave him a raise.
The Boston Bruins are proud to select from JYP Finnish Elite League Urho Vakanainen.
Never really found a fit in Boston, so he was sent to Anaheim as part of the Hampus Lindholm trade. And throughout his career, he's been okay. He's bounced between the minors a lot, but has found a nice little niche as a bottom 4 guy. So, that's alright, I guess.
The Sharks would like to select from the U.S. program, Josh Norris.
Norris is good. So good, in fact, he was thrown in as the big young prospect by the Sharks in the Erik Karlsson trade. Honestly, and this is my bias showing, he's shown that he's got what it takes to be a legitimate first-line center. He's already got a 30-goal season under his belt, has been trusted in all situations, and can be outright lethal on the power play. So what's the problem? Guy can't stay healthy. Over the past 3 seasons, he's had 3 different long-term injuries and has had to go under the knife for shoulder surgery 3 separate times. When he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the lineup. But whether he can stay that way is still left to be seen.
For this organization,
St. Louis Blues are proud to select from the OHL London Knights, Robert Thomas.
St. Louis took a big risk on Thomas. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player and has solidified himself as the Blues' #1 center. But paying him over $8 million after a down year? They were really banking on it being a blip and that he returned to form. Which he did. With a career high in goals, assists, and points, Thomas has turned into a potent offensive threat and silenced a lot of doubters in the process.
Here at number 21.
New York Rangers select from Zlin in the Czech Elite League, Filip Chytil.
People were salivating in 2022 after Chytil dominated in between Lafreniere and Kakko on that vaunted kid line. Then he backed it up with career-high totals the next year and solidified himself in the Rangers' offensive core. Enough to earn him a nice little contract extension for his troubles. Then this year, he got hurt and missed almost the entirety of the season and struggled to get back into the lineup when healthy. Chytil is a good piece to complement their core, so hopefully it's not a sign of things to come.
The Edmonton Oilers are proud to select from the Spokane Chiefs, Kyler Yamamoto.
I don't get it. Yamamoto is fine. He's a solid winger who could put up 20 goals and provide a decent bit of depth scoring on a contending team. Honestly, he sounds exactly like the kind of guy the Oilers could use. Sure, that cap hit kinda sucked, but I mean, surely you could have gotten at least something when you traded them away. Then again, considering Detroit bought him out immediately after, I could be wrong. Either way, he's still not a bad piece and is pretty serviceable, and whoever snaps him up will be getting a nice little depth player to round out their offensive core.
The Arizona Coyotes are pleased to select from the Charlottetown Islanders, Pierre-Olivier Joseph.
Honestly, I thought Joseph was better than this when I started the script. An offensive defenseman good on the transition, and after a trade to Pittsburgh, had guys like Letang and eventually Karlsson to learn from. So when I saw that his career high in points was only 21, and that he spent time in the minors in 4 of the last 5 seasons, then the fact that Pittsburgh didn't qualify him started to make a bit more sense.
With our first selection, the Winnipeg Jets are proud to select Christian Vesalainen, Frölunda, Swedish Elite League.
Never really found a spot in the NHL. Bounced between the minors for a few years and eventually decided to head back to Europe after a somewhat disappointing 2022 campaign. Sounds like a wash if you ask me.
On behalf of Elmer, I'd like to make this pick from St. Cloud, Ryan Paling.
Stalled out in Montreal's system, then was traded to Pittsburgh in a cap dump. Struggled to play his way into the lineup while there, then found a niche after signing with the Flyers and has become a core piece of their bottom six. The regular NHLer. Sometimes that's all you really need, and you can't help but be happy with that.
From Boston University, Jake Ottinger.
Spoiler alert, Dallas won this draft. We've already talked about Miro Heiskanen, they're going to get Jason Robertson in the second round, and now we get to talk about Jake Ottinger. A true number one goaltender capable of winning games and playoff series all on his own. Don't believe me? Just look at his breakout performance against Calgary in 2022. Despite Dallas being severely outmatched offensively, Ottinger dragged that team to 7 games. He threw up a .954 save percentage and saw up 64 shots in Game 7 as the team ultimately came up short. And even this past year, after a small blip in the first round against Vegas, he shut down Colorado and almost did the same to Edmonton before McDavid did McDavid things. Ottinger has turned into a beast between the pipes, and barring any more curses, should continue to dominate going forward.
Philadelphia selects from Ontario Hockey League Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, Morgan Frost.
Frost is a decent little center. Not necessarily a game breaker, but a guy who can play consistent, solid minutes. These past 2 years, he's been scoring at a 40-point clip, and probably could have hit 50 had he not been benched for long points last season. And therein lies our problem. His relationship with Tortorella means that even with decent performances, he's found himself in constant trade rumors and could see himself out of Philadelphia as early as this summer. At the very least, whoever picks him up will know they're getting a very solid player to add to their lineup.
The Ottawa Senators are proud to select les Sénateurs d'Ottawa sont très fiers de choisir Shane Bowers from Waterloo of the USHL.
Who?
You did this bit last year.
Yeah, and it's still valid here. His most notable achievement came from being the sweetener in the Matt Duchene trade. And the less said about that, the better.
With the 29th pick, the Chicago Blackhawks select Henry Jokiharju.
The definition of consistently serviceable. He's not flashy, he's not a true game changer, but he can play 20 minutes a night and fills a role in a team's bottom pair. Or next to Dahlin, I guess. Hey, every good D pair needs a guy to actually play defense. So, it could be worse for Jokiharju.
Nashville Predators select from the Sioux City Musketeers, Eli Tolvanen.
Tolvanen took a while to truly break out. He was given the chance in Nashville, but never really seemed to find a consistent role there. Thankfully, after being claimed on waivers by Seattle, he's actually sought himself into a nice little niche in their middle six. Capable of playing up and down the lineup, he's added some nice depth scoring on a team that thrives off that system. He's found himself in the right place in the right time and has definitely made it work for him.
Draft in St. Louis Blues are proud to select from the Moscow Dynamo, Klim Kostin.
Sometimes a guy just doesn't work out. Kostin never really managed to gel with any of his former teams, whether it be St. Louis, Edmonton, or Detroit. How he managed to get $4 million from Yzerman in spite of that, I still don't know. He since, however, found himself a nice home in San Jose, where he'll likely remain for the next little while, if only because they don't have anyone else playing for them. So that wraps up the first round, but how did everyone fare in the later rounds? While the second round was light on game-changing talent, it still saw plenty of NHL-caliber players, and even names like Jason Robertson, Eetu Luostarinen, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen going off the board. Names like Stuart Skinner and Fabian Zetterlund highlight the third round, while regular NHLers like Mikey Anderson, Nick Perbix, Caden Primo, and the other Sebastian Aho stand out in the later rounds. For the biggest steal of the draft, we must turn our eyes to the fourth round. And while I really wanted to go with Drake Batherson, who's turned into a pretty underrated playmaking winger, helping to round out Ottawa's young core, I have to go with Jeremy Swayman. One of the most dominant young goalies in the league, he's been consistently excellent ever since breaking out in 2022, and in the past season has even managed to win the starter's job in Boston from Linus Ullmark, who, may I remind you, won the Vezina just the year prior. Only thing left for him now was to finally get that contract figured out. Overall, I'd say this was actually a pretty strong draft. Even most of the quote-unquote weaker players have managed to land themselves solid roles in the league, and most teams were able to land at least one piece that helped contribute to their current rosters in one way or another. So even if it wasn't directly, I think many a team would look back fondly on this class. Why, Pierre? Why?